Well, we're going to start off in Kenya, where, of course, they held general elections yesterday. The paper's reacting to that. Start off with the Kenyan press.
That's right. We're going to start off with a cartoon in the Daily Nation, which talks about the long wait. And you can see all the candidates there nervously waiting for the results. Well, some are more nervous than others. There's one candidate there in the front with his hands in his pockets whistling a tune, and it looks a lot like Uhuru Kenyatta. So Kenya's deputy prime minister, according to polls ahead of the election, it seemed like he was going to beat his main rival, Raila Odinga. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens, of course. Meanwhile, in their editorial, the Daily Nation applauds the millions of Kenyans who braved the heat and to cast their vote, even though there was also the memory of election violence from 2007 when more than 1,000 people were killed. It points out that the turnout across the country was massive. There was a couple of incidents of violence, especially in the coastal town of Mombasa, but other than that, things went rather smoothly. And according to the Daily Nation, this election is a turning point for the country. It will, the outcome will determine whether the country proceeds as a civilized state.
So that's the Kenyan press, but the foreign press also reacting to
That's
that.
right. It's on the front page of The Independent today, which also talks about this massive turnout. You can see a photo there of a Maasai queuing to vote yesterday. It says, holding the line, Kenyan voters defy fears of election violence. Meanwhile, The Guardian in their editorial today, they take a look at the source of the tension in Kenya, which is tribalism, which is what they call the default mode of African politics, which is normal, but when it's excessive, it can be counterproductive and destructive. And according to The Guardian, lots of things have changed since 2007, but in a lot of ways, the country hasn't really moved on. Politicians, for instance, still campaign on the basis of ethnicity and not class. And according to The Guardian, this is somewhat surprising because most politicians are rich while most voters are poor.
Okay, well, moving on, but sticking with The Independent, that's continuing a special series that it's got going on at the moment, looking at 10 years since the US-led invasion of Iraq.
That's right. Today they're looking at Baghdad 10 years later. They call it the city of corruption. Bribery has become the dominant currency in the Iraqi capital, according to The Independent. They quote one former Iraqi minister, for instance, who says that the government is an institutionalized kleptocracy. Basically, everything is for sale and you have to pay for everything from getting a job to getting out of jail. The Independent points out that one of the symbols of corruption and this dysfunctional state is a certain bomb detector, the ADE 651. Basically, it's been exposed as being a fake a long time ago. It was supposed to be able to detect bombs, banknotes, drugs, truffles, all this from
dangerous stuff.
All this from a distance of 1 kilometer. It should work through walls, underwater. Sounds wonderful, but it doesn't work. And according to The Independent, despite the fact that this is a very widely known thing, the government spent tens of millions of pounds on them. And it, for instance, spent 60,000 pounds on each one when they cost, in fact, just 50 pounds to make. So obviously someone was lining their pockets on this.
Clearly. Okay, well, moving on to the China Daily. They're focusing on the annual session of Parliament that's opening at the moment. And it's also the final stage in that change of leadership that only happens once every 10 years.
That's right. It's on the front page of China Daily, so the official Chinese paper in English. They're focusing on the fact that all this is happening while the tensions with China over the disputed islands is continuing. But you see a photo there of Fu Yin. She's the first spokeswoman for the National People's Congress. She was making her debut yesterday. In their editorial, it's a very interesting editorial today. They're focusing on the new crop of deputies at the National People's Congress. And according to China Daily, they're younger, better educated, from a more diverse career backgrounds. Especially, fewer of them are actual government officials, and most importantly, they're more in touch with their constituencies and they campaign more for them. So according to China Daily, all this is very positive. These are positive changes. It will make the legislature more energetic, more representative, more efficient. But it could also mean that there will be a lot more different opinions within the parliament. But China Daily says that's not such a bad thing. People today expect more. They expect to be more represented, but could announce changes to come.
Okay, and finally, Gawker is taking a look at what your name might say about your level of education.
That's right. Gawker wonders what names help you get in Yale or keep you out of Yale. Now, this comes after an article in The Guardian last month did a similar thing for Oxford. Basically, you see Venn diagrams there They compare the names of current Yale graduate students with the most popular names of baby names back in 1994, so the year when most graduates today were born. Well, it turns out that popular names aren't always what turns administration staff on. If you're a boy, you better be called something traditional like Charles rather than something cool like Tyler or Brandon. And as for the girls, it's the more traditional names like Abigail and Margaret that work better than Amber and Courtney. Lorna wasn't on there. And neither was Florence, but Florence is a grandmother name, so maybe Florence is
a lovely grandmother name, nonetheless. Well, Lorna's quite old-fashioned, I think, in the UK these days as well. But I was named after my grandmother, so it's a grandmother name.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Florence, for that look at today's papers internationally. Well, just ahead here on Live from Paris, a look at the day's business news, including the car is the star in Geneva as the motor industry tries to shake off the gloom of a sector in crisis. More on that when we come back after the break.